I never thought a PowerPoint presentation could land me in the Supreme Court. But there I was, watching the man who stole my work squirm under oath while 9 justices decided whether corporate theft of intellectual property was just business as usual. My hands trembled as I gripped the cold wooden bench, remembering the exact moment I saw my life's work, my AI security framework, splashed across TechCrunch with his name stamped on it. 20 million in funding, my ideas, his glory. My name is Clara Ridge, and I'm the woman who took down a tech CEO for stealing my work. At 32, I thought I'd seen enough of corporate America to know how the game was played. Growing up in Billings, Montana, I'd learned that hard work and honesty meant something. New York taught me otherwise. I'd been at Virion Systems for 18 months when everything imploded. The startup promised to revolutionize cybersecurity through AI integration, a vision that aligned perfectly with my expertise. I'd turned down a senior position at Microsoft to join this scrappy team of 25 people working out of a converted warehouse in Brooklyn. The salary cut hurt, but the equity and the chance to build something from scratch, that was worth gold. Or so I thought. The day I discovered the betrayal started like any other. I was nursing my 3rd cup of coffee, reviewing the final touches on what I'd privately named Project Sentinel, a comprehensive AI-driven security framework that could predict and neutralize threats before they materialized. I'd spent 6 months perfecting it, working weekends, missing dates, living on takeout and ambition. My phone buzzed with a text from my college roommate. "Holy shit, Clara, just saw your company on TechCrunch. 20 million funding?" My heart skipped. We'd been trying to close Series B for months. I clicked the link, expecting to see our team announcement. Instead, I saw Miles Carraway's smug face plastered across my screen. Our CEO, in his signature black turtleneck, standing in front of a presentation I knew by heart. Because I'd created every single slide. Carraway's revolutionary AI security framework set to transform cybersecurity. The headline screamed. I read the article 3 times, each word burning deeper into my retina. My framework, my algorithms, my 18-hour days distilled into buzzwords coming out of his mouth. The journalist quoted him extensively. "I've been developing this concept for years. It's the culmination of my vision for where security needs to go." His vision? I'd pitched him the initial concept 9 months ago in his glass-walled office. He'd been skeptical, called it too ambitious and technically unfeasible. Then he'd asked for a detailed proposal. "Just to better understand your thinking," he'd said with that practiced smile. I'd been stupid enough to send him everything: research, code samples, market analysis, even my personal notes on implementation strategies, all meticulously documented in a 47-page document I titled Sentinel, AI-Driven Predictive Security Framework by Clara Ridge. Now that same document, minus my name, was being waved around in investor meetings as his masterpiece. My hands shook as I scrolled through my email, finding the original timestamp. Sent, March 15, 2024, 11:47 p.m. I'd even followed up with 17 iterations, each one incorporating his feedback, creating a perfect paper trail of my own naivety. The office felt different when I walked in that morning. Conversations died as I passed. Karen from HR avoided eye contact. Even Jake, my usual coffee buddy, mumbled something about being late for a meeting. They all knew. I found Miles in the conference room, surrounded by champagne bottles and the leadership team. Through the glass, I watched him laugh, probably retelling the story of how he'd cracked the code on our future. When I knocked, the room fell silent. "Clara," his voice dripped with false warmth. "Our star strategist, come in, we're celebrating." "We need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. His smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. "Of course, everyone, give us the room." The others filed out, offering awkward congratulations I couldn't process. When the door closed, Miles dropped the act. "Congratulations are in order," he said, pouring himself champagne. 20 million. We're officially a unicorn in the making. That was my work. Miles. He sipped his drink, studying me over the rim. Was it? I recall a collaborative effort, many late nights, many contributors. I have the emails, the timestamps, the original files. You have, he interrupted, setting down his glass with deliberate precision. A job, a good one, with excellent equity potential. He moved closer, his cologne suffocating. Don't confuse individual contributions with company property. Clara, everything you create here belongs to Virion. Check your employment contract. This isn't about legal technicalities. You know I created Sentinel. I know, he said slowly, that you're a valuable team member who's upset about not being in the spotlight. I understand, but this is how startups work. We build together. We succeed together. With your name on my work. His smile turned predatory. Be very careful, Clara. Very careful. The tech world is small. Troublemakers don't last long. And whistleblowers? He laughed. They end up writing Medium posts nobody reads while the rest of us change the world. I left his office knowing 3 things. He'd stolen my work, he'd threatened my career, and I wasn't going to let him win. That night, I called Alexa Varnell. The months before the betrayal feel like a different lifetime now. I'd joined Virion Systems with the kind of optimism that only comes from believing you're building something that matters. The job posting had been perfect. Senior strategy developer wanted for cutting-edge cybersecurity startup. Help us redefine digital safety. I'd turned down a $200K position at Amazon for this. My parents thought I was insane. You're leaving stability for a startup? My mother had asked during our weekly call. In New York? Clara, honey, you have such a good thing going in Seattle. But I wanted more than good. I wanted to create something mine. Virion's office occupied the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in Williamsburg. Exposed brick, communal tables, a kitchen stocked with kombucha and cold brew. Every startup cliché in the book. But the energy was infectious. 25 people who genuinely believed we could take on the giants. Miles had been charming during my interview. He'd leaned forward as I explained my vision for predictive security, his eyes lighting up with what I thought was shared passion. This is exactly the kind of thinking we need, he'd said. Someone who sees beyond traditional firewalls and reactive measures. The red flags were there from the beginning. I just chose to see them as quirks, like how he always scheduled our one-on-ones for 7 p.m., when the office was empty. I think better after hours, he'd explain, pouring himself whiskey from the bottle he kept in his desk. When it's just us innovators. Or how he'd constantly ask for draft versions of my work. I want to understand your process. He'd say, see how that brilliant mind works. I'd been flattered. God, I'd been so stupid. There was the way he introduced me to investors. This is Clara, one of our strategists. Like I was interchangeable. While he was always Miles Carraway, CEO and founder. The distinction mattered. I realized too late. I threw myself into Project Sentinel. The concept had come to me during a particularly brutal hack simulation where our current systems had failed spectacularly. What if instead of responding to threats, we could predict them? What if AI could learn attack patterns so well it could shut down vulnerabilities before they were exploited? For 6 months, I lived and breathed that project. My apartment became a second office, whiteboards covering every wall, algorithms sketched on windows with dry erase markers. I'd fall asleep to the glow of code, dream in Python and neural networks. You're obsessed, my roommate Emma would say, finding me at 3 a.m. surrounded by coffee cups and research papers. I'm close to something revolutionary, I'd tell her, and I was. The framework I developed wasn't just innovative, it was paradigm-shifting. By analyzing millions of attack patterns, system vulnerabilities, and user behaviors, Sentinel could predict cyber threats with 94% accuracy up to 72 hours in advance. It was like giving companies a crystal ball for their digital security. I made the mistake of sharing my excitement with the team. During a Friday afternoon all-hands, I presented a high-level overview. The room was electric. Our lead developer, Amit, actually applauded. This could change everything, he said. Miles watched from the back, expression unreadable. That night, he called me into his office. Incredible work, Clara. Really groundbreaking. I need to understand it better, though. Can you send me the full documentation? I want to make sure I can properly articulate your vision to the board. Your vision. He'd said your vision. I sent him everything that weekend. 47 pages of detailed documentation, algorithms, implementation strategies, market analysis showing how Sentinel could capture 30% of the enterprise security market within 2 years. Even my personal notes on potential vulnerabilities and solutions. He responded Sunday night. Reviewing now. Some concerns about scalability. Let's discuss Monday. Monday became Tuesday. Tuesday became a week of minor tweaks and adjustments for investor palatability. Each iteration pulled my work further from its original form while somehow maintaining its core brilliance. Death by 1,000 edits, all tracked in our shared Google Drive. We need to simplify the technical language, he'd say, make it more accessible. But the complexity is what makes it powerful. I'd argue. Trust me, Clara. I've been through this before. I know what investors want to hear. 3 weeks before the funding announcement, I noticed something odd. My access to certain shared folders had been restricted. When I asked a T, they mumbled about new security protocols. Then came the email that made my blood run cold. Miles had scheduled a Sentinel strategy session for senior leadership only. I wasn't invited. Must be a mistake, I told Jake over coffee. I created Sentinel. He shifted uncomfortably. Yeah, about that. Miles has been presenting it as a collaborative effort. Says it's been his pet project for years. What? Look, Clara. I'm just telling you what I heard. Maybe talk to him. I did. He brushed off my concerns with practiced ease. Of course it's collaborative, Clara. That's what makes Virion special. No egos, just innovation. Your contributions have been valuable. But let's not overstate individual ownership. The gaslighting was masterful. By the time he was done, I almost believed I was being petty. Almost. 2 days later, Priya from engineering quit. She cleaned out her desk at lunch, no goodbye party, no explanation. I caught her in the parking lot. Why are you leaving? I asked. She looked around nervously. Can't say NDA, but Clara? Document everything. Email yourself copies. Trust me. The warning came too late. By the time I tried to access my original files, they'd been moved to a restricted folder. My name had been scrubbed from the metadata. Even my email drafts had been mysteriously deleted. But I still had one thing. The original file on my personal laptop, the one I'd created before bringing it to Virion. My proof that Sentinel was born in my apartment at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Fueled by inspiration and too much caffeine. I thought that would be enough. I thought wrong. The morning I saw my life's work credited to someone else, I threw up. Not metaphorically. Actually physically ill, hunched over my toilet at 7:43 a.m. while my phone buzzed with congratulations from people who thought I should be celebrating. The TechCrunch article was everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, even the New York Times tech section had picked it up. Virion Systems raises $20 million Series B for revolutionary AI security platform. Every photo showed Miles, every quote came from his mouth. My words, twisted into his narrative. The breakthrough came to me during a late-night coding session, he told TechCrunch. Sometimes innovation requires solitude and absolute focus. I locked myself away for weeks to crack this. Locked himself away. While I was sending him daily updates from my apartment, he was apparently having his own parallel revelation. The audacity was breathtaking. I called in sick and spent the day documenting everything I could remember, every conversation, every email I'd forwarded to my personal account, every timestamp I could verify. By evening, I had a 30-page document that proved, beyond any doubt, that Sentinel was mine. The next morning, I confronted him. Not in his office, I wanted witnesses. I waited until the weekly all-hands meeting, when he was mid-sentence about our incredible journey to innovation. Question, I said, standing up. 25 faces turned to me. Can you explain which specific parts of Sentinel you personally developed? The room went silent. Miles's smile flickered but held. Clara, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, I think the team deserves to know. Since it's such a collaborative effort and all, I pulled out my laptop. I have some questions about the neural network architecture. Since you coded it during those late-night sessions, you can surely explain why you chose a convolutional approach over recurrent networks for pattern recognition? His face flushed. This isn't the appropriate forum. Or maybe you can walk us through the decision to use parallel processing for the prediction algorithms. I'm curious about your thought process. Enough. His voice cut through the room like ice. My office. Now. I followed him, aware of every eye tracking us. In his office, he slammed the door and spun on me. What the hell do you think you're doing? Getting answers, that's my work. Miles, every line of code, every algorithm, every strategic decision. Your work? He laughed, ugly and sharp. You really don't get it, do you? Check your contract, Clara. Section 7, subsection 3. Everything you create on company time, using company resources, belongs to Virion Systems. And as CEO, I represent Virion. I created the initial framework at home, on my own time. I have proof. You have nothing. He moved to his computer, typing rapidly. As of this moment, you're on administrative leave pending a performance review. Security will escort you out. You're firing me for calling out your theft? I'm protecting the company from a disgruntled employee making baseless accusations. He picked up his phone. Kevin, yes, we need you in my office. Bring David. My hands shook as I recorded everything on my phone, hidden in my pocket. This isn't over, Miles. Yes, he said calmly. It is. And if you're thinking about making noise, remember that every investor, every tech company, every future employer will Google you. What do you think they'll find? A brilliant developer? Or a bitter ex-employee who tried to sabotage her company's success out of jealousy? Security arrived. Kevin, who I'd shared lunch with dozens of times, wouldn't meet my eyes as he escorted me to my desk. I had 10 minutes to pack under supervision. My personal laptop was confiscated. Company security protocol, they said. My access to everything, email, Slack, drives, cut off before I reached the elevator. In the lobby, David handed me a document. Sign this, and you'll receive 3 months severance. I read the NDA. Comprehensive didn't begin to cover it. I couldn't discuss Sentinel, Virion, or anything related to my work there. Ever. I'm not signing anything, he shrugged. Then you get nothing. And trust me, Ms. Ridge. Virion's legal team has deeper pockets than you. I walked out into the Brooklyn morning, unemployed and gaslit, carrying a banker's box of personal items. My entire professional life reduced to a succulent, some books, and a coffee mug that said, World's Okayest Developer. The headlines kept coming. Miles did podcasts, gave interviews, became the face of innovation in cybersecurity. Each appearance was a knife twist. He'd even started using my phrases, predictive defense, algorithmic intuition, terms I'd coined during those 3 a.m. development sessions. My savings would last 3 months if I was careful. I applied for jobs, but somehow word had gotten out. Rejections piled up. Not a good cultural fit. Concerns about team dynamics. Moving in a different direction. One recruiter was honest after 2 drinks. Look, Clara, off the record, Miles Carraway is calling everyone. Says you're brilliant but unstable. Tendency to claim credit for others' work. Nobody wants that drama. I was being erased, professionally murdered by the man who'd stolen my greatest achievement. 2 weeks into unemployment, I found myself at my laptop at 2 a.m., staring at that original Sentinel file, the one I'd created before Virion. My proof? But proof of what? That I'd had an idea? Ideas were worthless without implementation. And the implementation, all of it, was trapped behind Virion's legal walls. I started writing a Medium post, The Truth About Virion's AI Security Platform. 2,000 words of fury and facts. My finger hovered over publish for an hour. Then I deleted it all. Miles was right about one thing. Whistleblowers in tech didn't become heroes. They became cautionary tales. Bitter footnotes in someone else's success story. But I wasn't ready to be a footnote. I picked up my phone and scrolled through contacts until I found her name. Alexa Varnell. Yale Law, class of 2016. Brilliant, ruthless, and most importantly, someone who'd walked away from big law because she was sick of seeing corporations crush individuals. We'd been study partners in undergrad before our paths diverged. She'd gone to law school, I'd gone to Silicon Valley. But we'd stayed in touch, bonding over wine and war stories from our respective trenches. It was 2:47 a.m., but I called anyway. Clara? Her voice was alert despite the hour. What's wrong? Alex, I need a lawyer, a really good one. What happened? I told her everything. The theft, the gaslighting, the blacklisting, the systematic destruction of my career. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making small noises of disgust. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. They stole your work and then destroyed your life for calling them out. Yeah. And you have proof? Real proof. Some. Maybe enough. Another pause. Then, Clara, I need you to listen carefully. What I'm about to propose isn't just about winning a lawsuit. It's about sending a message. Are you prepared for war? I thought about Miles's smug face, about my work being paraded as his genius, about every door closing in my face. Yes. Then pack a bag and get on the first train to D.C. tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do. I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. And behind it, sharper and cleaner, rage. Miles Carraway thought he'd buried me. He was about to learn what resurrection looked like. I thought justice wasn't for people without money, I said, slumped on Alexa's couch in her D.C. apartment. Until you explained how we're going to destroy him, Alexa Varnell had changed since Yale. The idealistic pre-law student who'd quoted Ruth Bader Ginsburg at parties was now sharper, harder. 3 years at Kirkland and Ellis had taught her how corporations fought. 2 years solo had taught her how to fight back. First rule, she said, pouring wine despite it being 10 a.m. Stop thinking like an employee. Start thinking like someone who owns something valuable that was stolen. Her apartment was a command center, whiteboards covered in timelines, boxes of printed emails, 3 monitors showing patent databases and legal precedents. She'd been working all night. I can't afford you, I said bluntly. I've got maybe $30,000 in savings. Clara, shut up. She pulled out a contract. Contingency basis. I take 40% of whatever we win, nothing up front, because we're not just going to win, we're going to eviscerate them. She'd already found things I'd missed. Your employment contract has a clause about pre-existing IP. Anything you created before joining Virion remains yours. When did you first conceptualize Sentinel? February 2024. I joined Virion in March. And you have proof? I pulled out my personal laptop. GitHub commits, journal entries, even a fucking timestamp from when I registered the domain Sentinel Security. Her eyes lit up. You registered a domain? I was excited, thought maybe I'd blog about the development process. Clara Ridge, you beautiful genius. That's prior art. That's ownership. She was already typing. What else? We spent 12 hours building our case. The original Sentinel file's metadata showed creation date, February 15, 2024, 2:17 a.m. My apartment IP address. Personal laptop serial number. Everything screaming individual creation. But he'll say I developed it further at Virion. Of course you did, using your pre-existing framework. That's like saying Microsoft owns your novel because you edited it in Word. She pulled up employment law precedents. California law is clear. They can claim improvements made on company time, but not the foundational IP. I'm in New York now. Where was Sentinel created? Seattle, my apartment in Capitol Hill. Then Washington state law applies to the creation. Even better for us. She was scribbling notes. Now, tell me about the threats. I played her the recording from my pocket. Miles's voice, crystal clear. Remember that every investor, every tech company, every future employer will Google you. Alexa's smile was predatory. Defamation. Intentional interference with prospective economic relations. Blacklisting. Oh. Clara? He gave us so many gifts. But he has the best lawyers money can buy. He has corporate lawyers. Good at contracts and mergers. I prosecute theft. She pulled up her case history. See this? Biotech researcher whose pharma company stole her cancer drug formulation. Settled for $12 million. This one? Software developer whose startup partners pushed him out and took his code. Jury award, $8 million. Jesus! I don't lose these cases, Clara. Because I only take the ones where the theft is so blatant, so documented, that corporate lawyers end up looking like mob attorneys. We strategize through the night. File for copyright infringement, theft of trade secrets, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, tortious interference, hit them from every angle. But first, Alexa said, we need more evidence, and I know exactly how to get it. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. If Miles was calling potential employers, he was leaving a trail. Alexa had me apply to 5 specific companies, ones where she had contacts. Within a week, we had it. 3 HR directors willing to provide statements. Miles had called each one. Off the record, warning them about my instability and tendency to overclaim credit. One more thing, Alexa said. We need someone inside Virion. Everyone's terrified of him. Everyone. She raised an eyebrow. What about the IT guy who helped you recover those deleted emails? Marcus. Quiet, competent Marcus who'd slipped me a USB drive with recovered data before security arrived. He won't testify. He needs his job. He doesn't have to testify. He just has to be very bad at cybersecurity for a cybersecurity company. I didn't understand until a week later when an anonymous email hit every tech journalist in New York. Attached, internal Virion communications, showing Miles instructing staff to scrub my name from documents. Emails where he discussed managing the Clara situation. Most damning, a recorded Zoom call where he admitted to the leadership team that I'd created Sentinel, but perception matters more than details. TechCrunch ran the story first. Questions arise about origin of Virion's breakthrough technology. Miles went on damage control immediately. I was a disgruntled former employee spreading lies. The leaked documents were taken out of context. He'd always acknowledged the collaborative nature of Sentinel's development. But the crack in his armor was there. Stock price dipped. Investors asked questions. The board announced an internal review. Now, Alexa said, filing our lawsuit the day after the leak, we go for the throat. The complaint was a masterpiece. 90 pages of documented theft, supported by exhibits that told a clear story. Young developer creates revolutionary framework, brings it to company. CEO steals it, fires her, then systematically destroys her career. We didn't just file in state court. The copyright claim meant federal jurisdiction. The amount in controversy, based on Virion's valuation tied directly to Sentinel, exceeded $75 million. Federal court means better judges, Alexa explained. Less likely to be impressed by corporate lawyers, more likely to care about IP theft. Miles's response was predictable. Motion to dismiss. Arbitration clause in my employment contract. Accusations of corporate espionage for the leak. Alexa demolished each argument. The arbitration clause didn't cover pre-existing IP. The leak? We had nothing to do with it, Your Honor. Must have been a concerned employee. Such a shame about Virion's internal security, Then she did something I didn't expect. She called the New York Times. "You want to try this in the media?" I asked. "No. I want to let them know a story is coming. David versus Goliath. Young woman inventor versus tech bros. The death of innovation by male ego. They'll be watching the case, waiting for their moment." That seems dirty. Corporate lawyers have PR firms on retainer. We have the truth. And the truth, told well, is the most powerful weapon in the world. The federal judge denied the motion to dismiss. Discovery began. And with it, the real war. Virion's lawyers buried us in documents, hundreds of thousands of pages. Every email, every document, every line of code ever written at the company. Classic big law tactic, drown the opposition in paper. Alexa hired 3 contract attorneys and put them in her spare bedroom. Find me evidence of other theft. I bet Clara isn't the first. She was right. Buried in the avalanche were patterns. 3 other developers who'd left suddenly. Products that appeared right after their departures. NDAs signed under duress. Holy shit. Alexa breathed. He's done this before, multiple times. Can we contact them? Already am. She showed me her screen. LinkedIn messages to former Virion employees. Careful, neutral language, just checking in, hearing about their new ventures. 2 responded, then 3, then 5. By the end of the week, we had 7 former employees willing to talk off the record, each with a similar story. Brilliant idea. Miles's initial dismissal. Sudden interest, requests for documentation. Then either termination or constructive dismissal. Their work repackaged as his vision. Pattern of behavior, Alexa said, documenting everything. This isn't theft, it's a business model. The case was building into something bigger than my stolen work. It was about a system that let men like Miles prey on creators, stealing ideas with impunity because they controlled the lawyers and the narrative. But we had something he didn't expect. We had proof. We had allies. And we had Alexa Varnell, who looked at Virion's army of corporate lawyers the way a chess master looks at pawns. Discovery ends in 6 weeks, she said, surrounded by evidence boxes. Then we file for summary judgment. And Clara? When we're done. Miles Carraway isn't just going to lose this case, he's going to lose everything. I believed her. For the first time since that morning in the conference room, I truly believed justice was possible, even for people without money. Especially for people with the truth. Playing with sharks means you better know how to use a knife, Alexa said, sliding a stack of papers across her desk. And baby, we just got ourselves a machete. The documents were from Discovery, internal Virion emails that their lawyers had tried to bury in those hundreds of thousands of pages. But Alexa's team had found them, gold mines hidden in digital haystacks. Look at this. She pointed to a highlighted section. Email from Miles to the CFO, 2 days after you submitted Sentinel. Clara's framework could be our unicorn ticket. Need to ensure proper ownership structure. Proper ownership structure, I repeated, tasting bile. It gets better. Response from legal counsel. Employment agreement covers work product but not pre-existing IP. Recommend documentation showing collaborative development. They knew. They fucking knew it was mine and strategized how to steal it. Oh, Clara. This isn't just theft anymore. This is conspiracy. The media storm hit 2 days later when documents mysteriously appeared on Reddit's technology forum. Not from us. Alexa was too smart for that. But someone inside Virion was bleeding information, and the tech community was hungry for drama. Y Combinator is going insane. My friend texted me with screenshots. Hundreds of comments dissecting the emails, analyzing the timeline, calling for boycotts of Virion products. Miles fought back hard. Press release after press release. A Medium post about the dangerous precedent of disgruntled employees. He even did a podcast where he painted himself as the victim of a targeted harassment campaign. Then Alexa played her next card. Remember those 7 former employees? She opened her laptop to a video call. Meet Sarah Winters. She's ready to go public. Sarah looked exhausted, but determined. Former Virion CTO pushed out after her distributed computing framework became the backbone of their platform, credited to Miles, naturally. I signed an NDA, Sarah said, but my lawyer says it's void if crimes were committed. Your lawyer is correct, Alexa smiled. And Sarah, what you're describing, that's intellectual property theft. Possibly racketeering if we can establish a pattern. Racketeering? I asked after the call. Pattern of criminal behavior for financial gain. RICO isn't just for mobsters anymore. Alexa was already drafting. We're amending the complaint, adding Sarah as a plaintiff, making this a class action. The amended filing hit like a bomb. Class action lawsuit alleges serial IP theft at Virion Systems. Every tech publication ran it. Twitter threads analyzed the pattern. Miles, the thief started trending. Virion's stock dropped 12% in a day. Their legal team requested an emergency meeting. 5 lawyers in $1,000 suits sat across from Alexa and me in a federal courthouse conference room. This has gotten out of hand, their lead counsel, Richard Brennan, began. We're prepared to offer a settlement. I'm listening, Alexa said, examining her nails. $2 million, full NDA, Ms. Ridge retracts all statements. Alexa laughed. Actually laughed. $2 million. My client's work is the foundation of your $20 million Series B. Try again. $3 million. Richard, buddy. You're not hearing me. We have 7 plaintiffs now. 3 more considering joining. Evidence of systematic theft. Your client on tape admitting he knew Sentinel was Clara's creation. She leaned forward. We're not looking for hush money. We're looking for justice. What do you want? $20 million to start. Public acknowledgement of Clara's creation of Sentinel. Miles's resignation. And full audit of all Virion IP with reattribution where appropriate. They physically recoiled. That's impossible. Then I'll see you at trial. Oh. And Richard? Discovery showed Miles has been hiding assets offshore. Cayman Islands accounts funded right after the Series B. The IRS might find that interesting. I watched them pale. Alexa had spent weeks tracking financial records, finding discrepancies. She wasn't just fighting the case, she was building a prosecutorial referral. After they left, I turned to her. Can we really prove financial crimes? Don't have to. Just have to make them think we can pressure Clara, apply enough, and even diamonds crack. The media strategy intensified. Alexa had me write an op-ed for the Times. I created the future of cybersecurity. My CEO stole it. Raw. Honest, naming names. Legal approved every word to avoid defamation while maximizing impact. It published on a Monday. By Wednesday, 3 major Virion customers had expressed concerns. By Friday, the board announced an independent investigation. Miles went nuclear. Lawsuit against me for defamation. Cease and desist letters. He even tried to get a restraining order, claiming harassment. Desperation, Alexa said, filing our response. Beautiful, actionable desperation. Then came the leak that changed everything. Not documents this time. Video. Someone, and I swear it wasn't us, released security footage from Virion's office. Miles in the conference room with investors. 2 weeks before the funding announcement, the audio was clear. The framework? Honestly, Clara Ridge built most of it. Brilliant girl. But investors want to see leadership vision, not employee contributions. So we're adjusting the narrative. She won't complain. She needs this job. The arrogance, the casual dismissal, the assumption that I'd stay quiet because I was just another replaceable developer. Tech Twitter exploded. LinkedIn thought pieces proliferated. The Miles Caraway problem, why tech leadership needs reform. But the real blow came from an unexpected source. Jerome Patterson, lead investor in the Series B, released a statement. We invested based on representations about Virion's technology origin. If those representations were false, we've been defrauded. We're reviewing all legal options. Investor lawsuit, the nuclear option in startup world. They're fucked, Alexa said simply. Lying to investors about IP ownership, that's securities fraud, federal crime, prison time. The settlement offer came at 11 p.m. on a Sunday. Not through lawyers, Miles himself, texting me directly. Can we talk? Please? This has gone too far. I screenshot it and sent it to Alexa. Don't respond, she texted back. Let him sweat. He called 17 times that night, left 3 voicemails, each more desperate. The last one, his voice was broken. Clara, please, I'll admit everything, just, please, stop this. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just cold recognition that actions had finally met consequences. Monday morning, Virion's board announced Miles's voluntary resignation and a comprehensive settlement of all claims. The number wasn't public, but Alexa's smile when she called told me everything. They're offering everything we asked for. And more. Much more. How much more? Let's just say you'll never have to work for anyone else again, unless you want to. But it wasn't about money anymore. It was about the public acknowledgement that would come, the reattribution, the vindication. It was about proving that sometimes, with the right lawyer and enough truth, David doesn't just fight Goliath, David wins. The war wasn't over. There would be paperwork, negotiations, probably years of legal cleanup. But sitting in Alexa's office, watching Virion's stock price crater while tech Twitter celebrated, I knew we'd already won the only battle that mattered, the one for the truth. The marble steps of the Supreme Court felt like ice under my feet. October in D.C. was brutal. But the cold inside me had nothing to do with weather. This was it. The highest court in the land. A building where history was made, precedents set, lives changed. And somewhere inside, Miles Carraway was waiting. Remember, Alexa said, adjusting my collar like a mother sending her kid to school. You've already won. This is just the victory lap. But it wasn't that simple. The settlement had fallen apart spectacularly when federal investigators found evidence of systemic fraud at Virion. What started as our IP theft case had snowballed into securities fraud, wire fraud, and a dozen other federal charges. The government wanted their pound of flesh, and our civil case had become Exhibit A in their criminal prosecution, which is how a startup IP dispute ended up before 9 justices. The question before the court, Alexa had explained, isn't just about your code. It's about whether corporate officers can systematically steal employee innovations and claim them as their own. The implications for every inventor, every creator, every employee in America are staggering. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, more intimate, wood and marble, and the weight of 2 centuries of justice. I sat in the gallery, my parents beside me. They'd flown in from Montana, my mother clutching my father's hand like a lifeline. Miles entered with his legal team. Prison had changed him. The swagger was gone, replaced by hollow eyes and gray skin. Federal custody pending trial wasn't kind to former tech bros. His black turtleneck had been traded for a suit that didn't quite fit. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, I saw something that might have been regret. Then his lawyer whispered something, and he looked away. All rise. 9 justices, the most powerful legal minds in America, about to decide whether corporate theft of intellectual property constituted a violation of federal copyright law when crossing state lines and involving interstate commerce. The government prosecutor went first. Patricia Chen, no relation despite the name, was a force of nature in navy blue. She laid out the case with surgical precision. Miles hadn't just stolen from me. He'd created a system, a pattern, a business model based on theft. Your Honors, she said, if we allow corporate officers to systematically appropriate employee innovations, we don't just harm individuals, we destroy the very foundation of American innovation. Miles's lawyer tried to argue technicalities, employment contracts, work-for-hire doctrine, the nebulous nature of software development, but the justices weren't buying it. Counselor, Justice Harrison interrupted. Are you seriously arguing that pre-existing intellectual property becomes corporate property simply because an employee continues development at their job? Not exactly, Your Honor. Then what exactly are you arguing? Because from where I sit, your client took someone else's work, claimed it as his own, profited from it, and then destroyed her career when she objected. How is that different from theft? I wanted to cheer. Instead, I gripped the bench until my knuckles went white. Then came the moment that changed everything. Justice Martinez, known for her technical expertise, asked about the evidence. The prosecutor pulled up the smoking gun, an email chain we'd found buried in Virion's servers. Your Honors, I direct your attention to Exhibit 147. An email from Mr. Caraway to his personal attorney, dated 1 week before Ms. Ridge's termination. The email appeared on screens throughout the courtroom. Need advice on managing Clara's situation. She's becoming problematic about sentinel attribution. If she goes public, could impact valuation. What's our exposure if we terminate? Can we claim she violated her NDA by discussing proprietary information, even if she created it? The response from his lawyer was damning. Legally complex. If she can prove pre-existing IP, you're exposed. Recommend generous severance with ironclad NDA. If she refuses, make her unemployable. Sometimes practical solutions trump legal ones. Make her unemployable. There it was, in writing. The conspiracy to destroy my career because I dared to claim my own work. Mr. Caraway, Justice Chen said quietly. Did you write this email? Miles's lawyer tried to object, but Miles stood up. Against counsel's obvious wishes, he spoke. Yes, Your Honor. I wrote it. And did you follow this advice? Did you attempt to, quote, make her unemployable? A long pause. The courtroom held its breath. Yes. Gasps from the gallery. His lawyer's face went ashen, but Miles continued. I was building something important, something that could change the world. Clara's work was brilliant, but I thought the vision mattered more than the details. I was wrong. It wasn't an apology. Not really. More like a confession wrapped in ego. But it was enough. The justices retired for deliberation. Alexa and I waited in the hallway, surrounded by reporters kept at bay by security. My parents sat on a bench, my mother praying quietly. Whatever happens, Alexa said, you've already won. The truth is out. The precedent is set. No one will ever be able to do this again without thinking of Clara Ridge. 2 hours later, they called us back. Justice Harrison delivered the opinion. Unanimous. Copyright protection extended to pre-existing work developed further in employment contexts. Corporate officers who knowingly misappropriated such work faced both civil and criminal liability. The systematic suppression of creators' rights violated federal law. Furthermore, she continued, the deliberate destruction of an individual's career prospects as retaliation for asserting intellectual property rights constitutes tortious interference and may rise to criminal conspiracy. They remanded the case back to district court with instructions that basically guaranteed our victory. But more importantly, they'd created new law. The Ridge Doctrine, lawyers would call it. Protection for every creator who brought their dreams to someone else's company. Miles was led away in custody. The criminal trial would come later. 20 years, the prosecutor estimated, for wire fraud, securities fraud, and conspiracy. Outside, on those same marble steps that had felt like ice, the October sun felt warm. Reporters shouted questions. Alexa fielded them with practiced ease while I stood silent, processing. Ms. Ridge, how does it feel to make Supreme Court history? I finally found my voice. Like justice, it feels like justice. My mother broke through the crowd and hugged me. I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. That night, Alexa and I sat in her apartment, drinking champagne that cost more than my old rent. The TV played coverage on repeat, legal experts analyzing the implications. Tech leaders calling for reform. My name attached to a Supreme Court decision that would protect creators for generations. You know what the best part is? Alexa asked, already drafting the civil suit that would follow. This is just the beginning. Every company that's ever stolen from their employees is panicking right now. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Are you going to help them all? We are going to help them all, she corrected. Partners, remember? Varnell and Ridge. Has a nice ring to it. I laughed. For the first time in over a year, really laughed. Miles thought he'd buried me. Instead, he'd created a legend. And a law that would bury people like him. Sometimes justice comes from the highest court in the land. Sometimes it comes from refusing to let them win. Sometimes it comes from a cold October morning when 9 justices decide that truth matters more than power. I don't work at Virion anymore. Haven't set foot in that Williamsburg warehouse since security escorted me out with my pathetic banker's box. These days, I write my name on everything I create, in ink, in code, in federal fucking law. The civil suit settled for $47 million. After Alexa's 40% and taxes, I walked away with enough to never need anyone's permission again. But money was never the point. Neither was revenge, though I'd be lying if I said watching Miles get sentenced to 15 years didn't feel like Christmas morning. No. The point was the name. My name. On my work. Protected by the highest court in the land. Ridge doctrine makes fortune. 500 companies nervous. The Wall Street Journal announced 6 months after the decision. Good. They should be nervous. In the past year alone, 17 major corporations have settled IP theft claims from employees. 3 more CEOs faced criminal charges. The age of stealing from creators and calling it collaborative innovation was over. Alexa and I built something bigger than either of us imagined. Varnell and Ridge. LLP isn't just a law firm, it's a reckoning. We've got 30 attorneys now. Offices in Depot, New York, and San Francisco. Every week, another developer, designer, or researcher walks through our doors with the same story. I created something, they stole it. We don't take every case, can't. But when the theft is clear, when the evidence is there, when David needs a slingshot against Goliath, that's when we go to war. Sarah Winters, who joined our class action, used her settlement to launch her own company. Real attribution this time. She sent me a photo last week of her name on the building. None of this without you, the note said. Priya, who warned me to document everything, reached out after the Supreme Court decision. She'd been fighting her own battle in silence. We took her case pro bono. She won. Even Marcus, the IT guy who'd slipped me that USB drive, found his courage. Turns out he'd been documenting every shady request, every ethical violation, every time Miles asked him to adjust records. His testimony in the criminal trial was devastating. He works for the FBI now, Cyber Crimes Division, catching the Miles Caraways before they can destroy more careers. My mother keeps a framed copy of the Supreme Court decision in her living room in Montana, right next to my baby photos. My daughter changed the law. She tells anyone who'll listen. The pride in her voice heals something I didn't know was broken. But the real victory isn't in courtrooms or settlements or even vindication. It's in the emails I get every week. Young developers who say, I knew about the Ridge Doctrine, so I documented everything. Researchers who negotiate better contracts. Creators who know their rights. It's in the fact that Sentinel, my Sentinel, with my name restored, is now the industry standard for predictive cybersecurity. I license it through my own company, Ridge Security Systems. We're worth $400 million as of last week's valuation. Not bad for an unemployable troublemaker. Miles wrote me a letter from federal prison last month. 4 pages of what might generously be called reflection. He talked about pressure, about startup culture, about losing himself in the pursuit of success. I see now what I took from you, he wrote. Not just code. Identity, purpose, pride. I didn't respond. Some conversations are better left closed. Instead, I stood in front of 200 women at the Grace Hopper conference last week, telling our story. How I created something beautiful at 2 a.m. in a Seattle apartment. How a man tried to steal it. How the law said no. Document everything, I told them. Know your worth, own your work, and when they try to take it, because some of them will always try, fight like hell. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Alexa was in the audience, preparing her own keynote on legal protection for creators. We've come so far from that 2 a.m. phone call when I was broken, and she was brave enough to say, "Let's go to war." Last week, a young developer named Katie Chen, no relation, walked into our offices. 26 years old, brilliant, crying. Her startup CEO had just presented her machine learning algorithm to investors as his breakthrough. She had emails, timestamps, proof. "They said I'm being emotional," she whispered. "That I don't understand how startups work." I sat across from her, remembering my own devastation. "Katie," I said, "let me tell you about the Ridge Doctrine, and then let me tell you how we're going to destroy them." Her smile reminded me why we do this. Not for the settlements or the headlines or even the justice. We do it so that the next Katie Chen doesn't have to lose her name to keep her job. So that creation means something. So that theft has consequences. My name is Clara Ridge. I wrote the code that redefined cybersecurity. A man tried to steal it. He's in prison now. And I'm worth hundreds of millions. But more importantly, my name is on my work, in blood, in law, in history. And that's the only currency that really matters. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious. Where are you listening to this right now? Please comment below and let me know. I love connecting with all of you from around the world. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in my situation? Let's discuss in the comments.